Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the 5 worst books that I've read in 2023 so far. I just did a video about my 5 favorites of the year, so I'll link that down below. But today we're going to be talking about the worst. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the last video. I'm going to start at 5 and work my way up to the worst. So I've read a few doozies. So let's get right into it. Okay, number 5 on the list is A Quiet Kind of Thunder. And this is a YA, and it's about a selective mute. She has some anxiety, and she just decides that she's not going to talk. So she meets a new kid in her school, Reese, I think is his name, and he is deaf. So he does not speak as well. And so their guidance counselor kind of, introduces the two of them thinking that they could be friends because they have something in common. And of course, a romance ensues and they fall in love, and it's just a, kind of a coming of age story. But guys, I read this. I put this on my challenge from Chantel Reads All Day, the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, thinking that I had never read this. When I go to enter it into Goodreads, I had already read it, and I had no clue. I did not remember it. That's how unmemorable it was for me. I did not remember reading it. So there's that. And then also, their relationship was just kind of gross. I don't know. I don't know. It was just so meh for me. And that's unfortunate. It wasn't like, this is terrible, don't read it. It may be fine if you want to read it. Savannah Grace read the back and she said, oh, the premise sounds great, can I read it? And I was like, no, because there are just some moments between the two main characters. What is the girl's name? Steffi. There are some scenes between Steffi and Reese that I could have gone without. And also, there's a point in the story where they decide that it's going to be a romantic idea. This is mildly spoilery, so skip ahead if you would like to not be spoiled to this book. But there is a moment in the book where they decide that they're going to take a romantic trip together, but really they just run away and nobody knows where they are. And they think that they are grown and they're not. And so, of course, things happen and there is an emergency and she can't speak and he can't either, and so it's just it just was not my cup of tea. And I am thankful, I guess, that I read it for my Read Your Bookshelf challenge, so now I can get rid of it. Okay, number 4 on the list is So Long and Thanks for All the Fish by Douglas Adams. This is book 4, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. And I have heard that this is terrible, but I don't know. I wanted to read it for myself. There's a 5th book. I still want to read it. I'm not going to be getting rid of this one because I want all 5 of them, but this was just boring. It wasn't good. There was really no point to it. The whole time I was waiting for some of my favorite characters to make an appearance, and they don't until the very last chapter, and it just was not great. And it put me in a reading slump for several weeks, and it just was not good. So I highly recommend The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but maybe just read that one. There's no need to continue on with the entire series, and especially book 4. So number 3 on the list is Fairest, and this was a novella in the Lunar Chronicles series, and I don't even have it anymore. I put it up on my Pango and it's already sold. I've gotten rid of it. I got a few bucks for it. All is right in the world. But this one just wasn't good. It added nothing to the overall story. It's supposed to take place between Cress and Winter, but I didn't know that, so I read it after Winter. But even if I had read it before Winter, it would not have progressed the story at all. It's basically the backstory of how Lavanna, the evil queen, became evil. And so, because it's kind of a villain backstory, it is much darker than the rest of the books. It had some elements in it that were much more mature than the other books, and it just was not good. It was boring, and like I said, it did not advance the story at all, and so I'm glad that it's off my shelf. Okay, so the top 2 books that are the worst of the year, I actually read in June, so they're recent. So I feel like I can rant about them a little bit more, but I won't. So number 2 on the list is Queen of Thieves. And the premise of this sounded so intriguing to me. It is about, it's like 1940s London, and it's about a woman who is trying to like infiltrate this gang of women thieves because she has nowhere else to go. She's been kicked out of her home, and this is like the only way that she could make a living. And so, I don't know, it sounded intriguing to me, but it wasn't. The way that this was written, there was a lot of slang in here that I had no idea what it meant. It was, I don't know, it was like 1940s British street slang. I have no idea. And I'm like, why is she saying these things? I don't know. I was trying to explain it to Savannah Grace, and I said, it would be like me writing a story and being like, oh, that's straight bussin'. And somebody 100 years from now going, what in the world is this lady talking about? It just made no sense to me. And the author tended to repeat herself a lot. And it was more of a tell, not show. She would tell me things in the book instead of showing me. Also, there's like a trigger warning for sexual assault, and I did not know that going in. I probably would not have picked it up. It wasn't like extremely graphic, but I mean, it was enough to be like, okay, maybe this should have been a trigger warning for people. So know that going into this if you're interested in reading this. But it just the characters had no depth. It was just not my cup of tea, for sure. The number one spot, the worst book I've read this year, the only book I feel like I've given a 1 star to this year, probably, most likely, definitely, is No Offense by Meg Cabot. So the reason I picked this up is because the cover is cute. It was written by the author of The Princess Diaries. I've never read those, but I loved the movies. And it's about a librarian. Okay, so I'm thinking this is going to be great. This is going to be right up my alley. It's going to be a light, fun read. No, it was not. It was just so ridiculous. The opening scene is absolutely ridiculous. She is a librarian, and she's hosting a like a gingerbread decorating thing in the middle of the summer, and a teenage boy is in there, and he's doing inappropriate things with these gingerbread men. And instead of being like, quit, get away from these children, this is not appropriate, she's like, oh, you're gonna have to go somewhere else, but ha ha ha, you're gonna be so famous one day on YouTube. What? That doesn't even make sense. No, go away. You're weird. Like, that's not okay. Anyway, sorry. And then the whole premise is someone leaves a baby in a cardboard box in the library, and she finds him. Or her. It's a her. She finds the little baby. So she calls the cops, and the cop is, of course, the love interest. So he comes and he investigates, but he's kind of moody towards her. He's not even really nice, and I don't really like the grumpy guy trope thing. I'm like, why would you like somebody that's not very nice to you? I don't know. I don't really like it. But anyway, just like from the get-go, she's just annoying. She tries to get involved in his investigation and tell him how to do his job, and then proceeds to get mad at him when he does his job in a way that she does not think is appropriate. And it was just, again, these characters were so one-dimensional. I was not rooting for their love story. I did not even know these people, I felt like, by the end of the book. But I don't know. Also, she was just, the main character was so annoying. She was like, oh, he said to me the thing every intellectual woman wants to hear. You were right. I was wrong. I'm like, what? And then not even 2 or 3 chapters later, the author is talking about how the main character does something wrong and she can't admit it. And I feel like this is all unironically written. Like, she can't admit that she's wrong, even though that was what appealed to her most about this guy, that he could admit that he was wrong. And it was just so annoying. And I just kept reading because I'm like, this is not real. Surely this is not real. I feel like I'm sorry. If you like this book, I'm so glad. You can buy my copy. I just did not like this book. And another thing, she was so preachy. She's like, okay, this tiny, tiny town, but every single teen in this town is eco-friendly. Like, they would be appalled when their father would set the thermostat below 75 because it's not good for the earth. Or they would be appalled that plastic bags were going to be used instead of paper. Or it was not good. Do not recommend. However, if you like this book, I'm good. I'm glad you enjoy it. You should enjoy what you read. But I just did not. It was not for me. So I'm going to quit ranting and just say I did not like this. My friend Tiffany is doing a summer bingo, and she made a square that was like second chance author. So I was telling her about this book because I was fresh off of it. I had just finished it, and she's like, "Oh, maybe she could be your second chance author." No. Just no. But anyway, so there you have it. This is the worst book I've read this year. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the 5 worst books that I've read in 2023. I feel like I got a little heated about a few of them, and I apologize. They were just not my cup of tea. So I would like to hear, have you read any of these? Did you enjoy these books? What have you read that you've just not connected with this year? In the comments, I would love to hear. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.